if you look at future obligations for Social Security, Medicare, and so forth. So we're running this incredible deficit. Something's got to give. I don't know. This can't keep going. Expect, don't expect something bad to happen. I think, this is not good. If we don't do something, we will be stuck in traffic for forever. So I think government should be really trying hard to get rid of rules and regulations. We don't need the $7,500 tax credit. I would say, honestly, I would just can this whole bill. Don't pass it. That's my recommendation. I think one of the biggest risks to civilization is the low birth rate and the rapidly declining birth rate. There are not enough people. I can't emphasize this enough. There are not enough people.
Tomorrow, you get a phone call from Joe Biden, and he says...
I think that's unlikely, but sure.
Okay. He just gives you a call, and he says, I haven't been talking a lot about Tesla lately, but, what do you need from this bill? What are your needs? What do you answer him?
Well, to be totally frank, I don't know if at least no one at Tesla has actually brought up whether they care about this bill or not. I think if this bill happened or didn't happen, I don't know. We don't think about it at all, really. It might be better if the bill doesn't pass, because we've spent so much money. It's like the federal budget deficit is insane. It's like $3 trillion. Federal expenditures are $7 trillion. Federal revenue is $4 trillion. That's a $3 trillion difference in, if this was a company, it'd be a $3 trillion loss. So I don't know if we should be adding to that loss. The deficit is more than $3 trillion when you look at the future obligations. So it's $7 trillion of current expenditures, but it's much more than that if you look at future obligations for Social Security, Medicare, and so forth. So we're running this incredible deficit. Something's got to give. I don't know. This can't keep going. Don't expect something bad to happen. I think, this is not good.
What is the biggest improvement we can make to the U.S. infrastructure?
We generally could have better airports, better highways, especially in cities that are congested. We've got to do something to deal with the extreme traffic, which I think is some combination of double-deckering freeways and building tunnels. But if we don't do something, we will be stuck in traffic for forever. There will be more cars on the road, and the traffic will get much worse.
What do you think the role of government should be?
I think the role of government should be that of like a referee, but not a player on the field. There's a general problem, not just in the US, but in most countries, where the rules and regulations keep increasing every year. Rules and regulations are immortal. They don't die. There's not a natural... Occasionally you see some law with a sunset provision, but really otherwise the vast majority of rules and regulations live forever. And so if more rules and regulations are applied every year, and it just keeps growing and growing, eventually it takes longer and longer, and it's harder to do things. And there's not really an effective garbage collection system for removing rules and regulations. This hardens the arteries of civilization, where you're able to do less and less over time. So I think government should be really trying hard to get rid of rules and regulations.
How are you spending your time these days between the split between SpaceX and Tesla?
Yeah, it's about even between SpaceX and Tesla. It depends on, what is the kind of crisis of the moment. So some weeks will be more Tesla, more SpaceX. But I work a lot. I work 7 days a week. And
what about the support though for the charging network? I mean, there are parts of this bill. And no.
No, do we need support for gas stations? We don't. So there's no need for this for support for a charging network. I would delete it. Delete.
Okay. All right.
I'm literally saying get rid of all subsidies. We don't need the $7,500 tax credit. I would say, honestly, I would just can this whole bill. Don't pass it. That's my recommendation.
If you think about also how this affects your competitors, does that impact some of your view on this?
I mean, maybe they need it. I don't know. But I think just generally, I'm in favor of deleting subsidies. I mean, when we started Tesla, there were no EV subsidies at all, and gasoline was super cheap. We did not anticipate any subsidies. That came later, and that came the $7,500 tax credit came as a result not of Tesla activity, but of General Motors lobbying for it. So I would just say just delete them all.
All right, but there's some other good things in this bill that some would argue. I mean, a lot of money earmarked for R&D. Would you want to put that towards something?
No. In general, we should just, if we don't cut government spending, something really bad's going to happen. This is crazy. Our spending is so far in excess of revenue, it's insane.
How do you tax someone like you? How do you tax billionaires?
I mean, first of all, I pay a lot of tax. I mean, my marginal tax rate is like 53%. So that's not trivial. And then obviously there's like, asset-based taxes, the sales tax, and everything else. There's also the estate tax. And generally, I think the estate tax is a good tax.
Have you thought about that? Have you thought about your sort of your title and your position there right now?
I mean, it's interesting that these titles. You know that there's actually only three titles that actually mean anything for a corporation. It's president, secretary, and treasurer. And technically, they could be the same person. And all these other titles are just basically made up. So CEO is a made-up title, CFO is a made-up title, general counsel, made-up title. Don't mean anything. I changed my title to Techno King. And by the way, this is a formal SEC filing. I'm legally or whatever Techno King. I just did that as kind of like a joke because just to show that these titles don't mean a lot.
What we can expect in the next coming months.
With the Tesla Autopilot or Full Self-Driving, we're effectively, I think, creating the most advanced practical AI for navigating the real world. And you can always think of Tesla as like the world's biggest robot company, or semi-sentient robot company. So then, the car is kind of a robot on four wheels, and so then, we could probably take that same technology and put it in a humanoid robot and have that robot be useful.
And you've said also that it will solve some labor issues. I mean, what are some things that you envision this bot doing?
Well, it has the potential to be a generalized substitute for human labor over time. And the economy, the foundation of the economy is labor. Capital equipment is essentially distilled labor. So I was talking to a friend of mine actually to say, just like what should we optimize for? And what he said was gross profit per employee, fully considered. So you got to include the supply chain in that. The fundamental constraint is labor. There are not enough people. I can't emphasize this enough. There are not enough people. And I think one of the biggest risks to civilization is the low birth rate and the rapidly declining birth rate. It is, and yet so many people, including smart people, think that there are too many people in the world and think that the population is growing out of control. It's completely the opposite. Please look at the numbers. If people don't have more children, civilization is going to crumble. Mark my words.